The lesson.
Oh yeah.
Now, I guess on that topic, and I meant to ask you at the beginning of the interview. Now, you've been Asian growing up in Australia. When you were younger, did you experience any sort of like racial issues being Asian growing up in Australia, or that was never really a thing for you?
Oh, for sure I did, for sure. I think like most Asian kids who grew up in the 90s, bro, like we definitely had some sort of confusion as to where we fit in. This is the era of Pauline Hanson, even John Howard, literally telling us to go back to where we came from. It's like, what the fuck? I think every Asian kid grew up for a long time being confused about where they fit in and who they were. You know what I mean? And my parents have even said to me, like, I feel really sorry for you because, you're never going to be part of either. You're never going to be completely part of either camp, You're never going to be accepted fully as Australian, which is just realistic, You're never really going to be fully accepted as Australian, and you haven't got that cultural tie to your Asian roots because you grew up here. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think it's a bad thing at all, but I can see where they're coming from, because my parents were immigrants and they came here, in their 20s, obviously for a better life and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think there was like a lot, like it was never hectic to the point where I was getting bashed on the street or whatever, nothing like that. But I just think it's like a general feeling of when you're a child and when you're a teenager of not wanting to look like the way that you wanted or not wanting to sound like the way that you wanted, even down to the food that you ate. Like, it's just a very confusing time, and it took me a long time to get a grasp of that. And I think now especially, like, a lot of things have changed, obviously, that's why I'm so big on Asian representation, you know what I mean? Because it really takes you to see that to actually believe that, be proud of who you are, and there's Crazy Rich Asians, obviously, Bling Empire on Netflix, you have, Asian rappers, I started managing the hardcore band Speed, like they're, 4 of the members are Asian, and it's the same mission. We have the same mission, we want to see people that look like us, on a world stage, and, that's going to inspire the next generation. So yeah, it's just a weird time. And then when I was growing up, and then obviously all the COVID stuff, there was kind of like another wave of that. And pretty sure Pauline Hanson's still in the fucking Senate. So like, who knows, like, I feel like if you're a minority in Australia, it's, it's almost like, every 5 years, it feels like there's like another target to focus on. So yeah, but all you can do is, be proud of who you are and just stand on your own 2 feet, and that's it. Yeah.
And for you, these, I guess, challenges and experiences that you've had along the way, being Asian in Australia, has that had how has that shaped you to be the person that you are today? Like, what sort of impact has that had on you?
I guess it's just like I'm very conscious about like supporting other Asian people in the space. Just last week they launched the Australian branch of EST Media, which is kind of like it's like an Asian focused. It's basically to tell the stories of Asian youths around the world, and they just opened an Australian chapter. You know what I mean? And I think like something like that's so important because it's like not only the artists I want to support, I go out there and I support 1300 and all those boys for sure, but all the videographers behind the scenes, all the producers, 99 Hertz producing 1/4 shit now, and he's an Asian kid from out the Northwest. So, from even in, the labels, the A&Rs, managers, promoters, like everything, like I said, Australia is pretty much part of Asia, and I definitely feel like it's important for our stories to be told, and having those people in the right positions of influence to make sure that all of us can come up. You know what I mean? And it's not just about Asians at the end of the day. Obviously, like I'm Asian and that's my passion, but all people of color. I think that's one of the best things that's happened since this latest wave of hip hop from Australia going global. It's that people are really starting to become proud of not only their own culture and their heritage, but being proud of being Australian, you know what I'm saying? So, and, acts like 1/4, people are like, oh yeah, they're just another drill act who rap about, stabbing and doing this and doing that. But whether you like it or not, they're changing the global perception of Australia, what Australians look like, what Australians sound like. People are oblivious to the fact that there's even a, Samoan community here. And again, like if we're going to branch off that, you know, Spanian doing his food series and going out to, you know, a little Polynesian restaurant and putting that on his huge platform, you know, that's so important. You know, Spanian isn't Polynesian, but him doing that is going to mean so much for that, not only that business, but that culture as a whole. So yeah, I definitely feel like this is the time when, you know, so many people are telling their own stories proudly and not being ashamed of who they are or where they come from. And I think that's one of the best things about hip hop and the explosion that we're having now.
The lesson. 927. Oh, yeah.